Now let's talk about referencing and citation. Now if you're writing a research paper, you would always have to refer to other people's work. You would not be able to actually write a research paper without knowing what is the current research in that area, right? So this would apply even if you're a science student. This would apply if you are a humanities student, social sciences. You would not be able to form research without reading somebody else's work. So if you read somebody else's work, you would have to acknowledge and you would have to reference it and cite it, right? So referencing and citation can be understood in two parts. One is an in-text citation, which means that within the text you would have to give citations, right? You would have to acknowledge that this is an idea which you found in such and such book or such and such article or such and such website. And after the work is over, after that essay, you would have to give a separate heading called work cited or bibliography, where you would give all the information about that book, about that website, or about that article. Okay, so this contains all the other bibliographic information. Bibliographic information means information about the book, the title, the publisher, the issue date, the place, the page range, all of that. So these are two kinds of references or two kinds of citation. Okay, now when do we use figures? What is the rule associated with figures, photographs and diagrams? Now if you are able to take down somebody else's words, you are just needed to reference it, even if you have to publish. But rules are a little more stringent with figures, with photographs, with diagrams. If you have to publish a photograph which has been clicked by somebody else, you don't only have to cite, but you also have to seek permission from them. So often the rules associated with figures, with diagrams, with photographs are much more stringent. So you have to check whether you can actually reproduce those pictures in a published paper, in a published book. However, if you're using it for lectures, if you're using it for a dissertation, different universities have different rules. The rules are much more relaxed if these figures do not have to be mass circulated. So if it has to be mass circulated, the rules are very stringent. You have to seek individual permissions, but you may not have to seek permissions depending upon your rules in your university. If you are reproducing it in your dissertation, in your research paper, which just has to go to your evaluator who has to read it. Okay, now what to record in the citation? What do you put in the works cited? When you look at a book, you have the title page. What are the things that you have to record when you have to cite? So for a book, you have to cite the author, the year published, the titles of books are always in italics, the edition, whether it's the first edition, second edition, also if it's a translation, the name of the translator also would come. Place of publication. Now style manuals like MLA do not anymore require the place of publication, but many other style manuals would require place of publication. A style manual is basically a set of rules which your university follows when you are required to submit a paper, right? And the name of the publisher is required in your reference list. Then you have journal. In a journal, you have several more things to take care of. You also have to take care of the year published, the journal title, the issue and the volume, right? Sometimes in journals, these are two separate things which you have to be careful about. In a website, things are sometimes tricky because on websites the data changes. You know, the literature on the website, the words on the website, the pages of the website very often change. So apart from the other things that you take down, you also take down the URL. Just because that page may not exist a few months down the line, it is also important to record the date when you accessed it. So for instance, if I'm looking at a website, there's a web page which is available today, right? But that web page may not be available, say 5 years down the line. So I need to record with my works cited that this is the date where I had accessed that particular web page, because it may not exist later, but I need a proof that this is what I did, this is the date I had looked up in. Okay, so with websites, and you have to take down the URL as well as the date when you accessed it. This applies also for online journals as well. Very often they do, but sometimes you don't have to put that on journals, but definitely on websites. Now, where should I cite? What should I cite, right? This is a question which very many students ask. Should I cite somebody's birth date? Should I cite something which I assume that everybody knows? So let's first answer this. Is it a quote? Now this is all information is from Cardiff University. You can actually look at their website and find this more information on plagiarism as well. So the first question which you ask is, should I cite? Now, is it a quote? Is it a quotation? If it is a quotation, cite it. Place double quotation marks around the text. Okay. If it is not a quotation, then is it a paraphrase? If it's a paraphrase, again you cite it. Again, put references, put citation. Then is it somebody else's idea? Is it a theory, right? If it's a theory, for instance, if you're using somebody else's theory, you have to definitely cite it. You don't have to assume that everybody would know that theory. Excuse me. Again, you have to cite it. There is no need to cite if it is common knowledge or if it's your own thoughts. Now, common knowledge, the interpretation of common knowledge is very often left for you to interpret, right? So for instance, if you think if you want to say something about the Great Wall of China, the fact that it exists in China, right, that's common knowledge. The year it was built, who built it, what is the height presently, what is its state, all of those data, all of that information may not be, say, available to everybody. Similarly, if you say that the Prime Minister of India is Narendra Modi, that is common knowledge. You need not cite it. But if you have to talk about his speech, or if you have to cite his speech, you will definitely, if you have to quote his speech, you will definitely have to cite it. That should not be common knowledge, right? So you would have to interpret. It is always, there would be gray areas where you would it would be a question whether to cite, whether not to cite, and in those cases it's better to oversight than to undercite. So if you think there is a certain gray area, some people may know, some people may not know, it's good to cite. Okay, don't overburden your text with citations, but if you think this is not common knowledge, definitely cite. Okay, now style manuals have their own guidelines. Now very often what one style manual would say would be different from what another style manual would say. Okay, so for instance, APA in-text citation would require the author's last name and the year of publication, whereas the MLA in-text citation would require the author's last name and the page number, right? But the crucial things remain the same. The year, the second name of the author, and the page numbers are crucial parts of any citation. Either it would be in the in-text citation or it would be outside the text as the work cited. Okay, these minor details would change, but don't confuse or inundate yourself with, okay, what is the format, what should I do? Don't trouble yourself, don't stress yourself out so much about in-text citation. As long as your basics are there, as long as you have the basic information, you would be able to figure it out. Formatting rules in different style manuals would be different. This would totally depend on what is followed by your university. Certain tips would still help you out in whatever way you're writing. First, always acknowledge your sources, right? Use quotations sparingly. Now I am not in for overuse of quotations or the use of long quotations. Sometimes it actually breaks the flow of the reader. So do not use quotations very often unless it's extremely necessary. For instance, if it's a definition, you should not be changing the words in a definition, so the definition would definitely be carried forward as a quotation, but many other things, it's not important, you can just paraphrase. Okay, so, and when you paraphrase, you always cite. Consistency is key. Style manuals will always have guidelines, but if you aren't able to follow all guidelines, make sure that you are consistent. So evaluators are not very stringent about the format, but they would be able to sense if you're not being consistent. Okay, so if your in-text citation or if your works cited are following a certain pattern, stick to that pattern, don't change it midway. Okay, use note making tools. Very often you have note making tools like Mendeley, like RefMe. Make sure that you use that, you understand that early in your research journey, so you don't have to struggle later on. Look out for citation on journal papers itself, and remember to mention the date when you accessed an online material. So for instance, I'll give you an example. This is the kind of page that you get on if you cite a paper on the JSTOR page. Okay, on JSTOR you would have different ways to quote, to put down the citation of that paper, right? So for instance, this is just a paper that I found on JSTOR. This is not what I read, but this is how you would find different kinds of citation, and you can also export the citation to different kinds of softwares which would help you put your citations, which would help you put your work cited at the end of the paper, and these are very helpful. Okay, now what are the don'ts? Don't be casual about citations. Evaluators often look out for proper citation. You know, there may be a chance that your evaluator is unable to locate the citation. You should be very careful about it. Also, your in-text citations and your bibliography or your works cited page, they should correspond with each other. They should not be in-text citations whose entries are not found in the works cited, and there should not be any things in the works cited which are not found in the in-text citation. So there has to be some correspondence between the two. Be careful about the work done in collaboration with others. Collusion is also a form of plagiarism. So if you're writing a paper, say with a friend or with a parent or with whoever you're seeking support from, that would mean collusion. So you need not be actually just submitting it as an individual paper. Self-plagiarism, as I said, is also penalized. So if you're resubmitting an old research paper for a new degree, it's against the laws. Also, very often students confuse between the first name and the second name of the author. Make sure you never use the first name of the author. It's always the family name, the second name. The first name only comes if you have two authors who have the same family name, and you have to differentiate one author from another. Okay, so authors are not our friends, right? So we are not calling them by their first name. It's always the second name for authors. So that is what would be carried in the in-text citation and in the works cited page. Finally, why should we show our sources? Because it makes our works more evident, adds more evidence to our work, adds more credibility to our work. It makes our work traceable. It gives us authority, reliability. Also, it's a good, polite way to end your work. Okay, so this is my video on plagiarism. Make sure that you let me know whether you like this video. I'll see you next time with another video. Thank you.